Book of Engin. Welcome everyone. Yet another episode, and we're in stay home quarantine day. And I'm suffering from everything that you're suffering from and trying to manage it as gracefully as possible. This episode, I am just going to go on and ranting about the current events and what else is going on. What else is going on? How's everybody doing? Huh? What's the headspace like? Some of us are frustrated, some of us are over it, some of us are like so happy this is happening. Here's what those are the ones who are really happy about this are the ones who usually stay at home, and in the normal settings when they're staying at home, they brew this little bit of guilt because everybody else is doing something, but they're just staying at home being lard asses. And in this case, in this scenario, there's no guilt trip for them because nobody else is out there doing anything and crushing it. So they're comfortably just brewing in their own misery, but they're happy about it. There's a type of people like that. Maybe you are one of them, or maybe you know someone who is like that. As far as myself go, I wrote a little bit and practiced the bass and a little bit of sousaphone. I did some house chores this week and tried to hang some stuff for the girlfriend, tried to improve parts of the house, but I can't go full-fledged on the improving the house because I also need to hold on to the money that we have, you know. So you can't just go on and buy product to continue the improvement of the house. So we're just waiting, watching the news and watching Facebook. And my current reply to all the crazy is putting a laughing emoji wherever I can and however I can. Excuse me for a second. And here we go. So, and the reason is just people are nuts. People are just going, I can see it's just, there's this whole psychosis that's surrounding the Facebook. And I'm also now realizing the main difference between Instagram and Facebook. In Facebook, you really see a state of mind of a person and who's just cooped up. Some of you don't even fucking leave the house. Putting in orders with other friends who are risking their lives to go to the store. I went to the store. We sat in the line for Costco or what have you. Now, in the meantime, while you're waiting in line to get into Costco with like the 6 foot apart lines and all that stuff, Safeway, you can just walk in and out as you wish. They don't adhere to any of these rules, nor they enforce it. And as of Friday, we are obligated to have some sort of a face mask, a cloth, a bandana, or a proper, N95. Yeah, go for it. I mean, I will adhere it. I haven't been out since that ruling has been enforced. Then people talk about whether you can go for a joyride. And then there's always this story. Oh yeah, a friend of mine or my uncle's far cousin's sister was out in his car and was stopped by a policeman asking them where they're going. This is the Nazi America. None of that shit is happening. You guys are making these stories up. This is parallel to dogs eating chicken bone. You know, of course, if you're a dog owner, you've been warned about chicken bone as well as chocolate. None of these things are apparently good for your dog. And when I first got my dog Nadine, we went to some party, some event, and Nadine, being a dog, got into the trash can and ate almost like a whole carcass of a chicken. Everybody at the party And you know the type. It's usually the older lady, 50 plus lady with gray hair, with hippie attire. Maybe there were 10, 12 of them. It's pretty common around here in Northern California with those ladies. And they're overly concerned about your business all the time. But when you look at their lives, it's a fucking train wreck. So all these people come up to me and tell me about their uncle's far cousin's daughter's dog having had eaten chicken bones and had a ruptured kidney, punctured lung, and all these horror stories about the chicken bone and the dog. And I looked at my dog and I said, I think she's going to be fine. But 7 people come to you and tell you some dog and chicken bone story of an far uncle's cousin's daughter's pet, you just go, yeah, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to have a good time here. This is a party. So it's ridiculous what we believe in and how we just tell those stories in a telephone style and just ad-lib our piece to it to make it more horrific and more dramatic so someone would listen to you. Listen, nobody's gonna listen to you. You're a crazy person. You're a crazy person. And then same thing applies to how people are treating this coronavirus news. There's one saying, I just read one, what is it? Bill Gates got the approval to block the sun. That is the goddamn title to an article. Bill Gates got the approval to block the sun. Good luck, Bill Gates. Good luck blocking the sun. What is he going to do? Hand over fucking sun lotion to everybody so we're going to go SPF and make sure we don't get any sun? No. You get into the article and evidently he's going to do something to reduce the UV rays coming on Earth to slow down the climate change. How is that possible? It's not possible. It's not possible. It's what was it? He's going to build a giant umbrella, and they're going to spend like thousands of millions of dollars on this thing. Speaking of spending thousands of millions of dollars, how these news get warped. Luckily, I listened to our governor this Tuesday on NPR, and what he talks about, it's a Californian way of doing things too. He talks about that the medical assistance will also be available to our illegal immigrant population. That's all he said. We will help the illegal immigrants with medical assistance if they find themselves in trouble. That's all he said. All the news on everywhere else is, the governor of California is giving away this many $1 million to illegal immigrants, and where's my tax money going? Listen, man, your tax money, long before illegal immigrants, are not going where it's supposed to. Have you ever driven out here in California? Look at our roads, man. Look at our roads suck. The bridges fall apart. You think illegal immigrants is your problem? I think you're the problem. The people who don't pay taxes. And all these people like, I haven't received my check yet. Well, did you pay your taxes in 2018? And and somebody said, I got $105. That's probably your tax return for 2019. Like, people don't even know how to look at these numbers and analyze these numbers, but everybody's a goddamn expert when it comes to social media. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's very entertaining. But you have to take this in moderation, like as you should take my podcast in moderation. Too much of it might create a level of wokeness, and you might start to believe your own shit. I'm just talking shit. I'm a somewhat intelligent person. I do have an education that has taught me how to do research or read a research and see the variables and how the results are affected by those variables. Do you have that education? Now, then we have the parents. Parents are still, oh, I need help. I'm this, that, the other. How about those mothers? Those mothers, and I know how many of you guys are out there when at a party with some Chardonnay in your hand going, oh, I wish I could find a man so I could just sit at home and be with my kids all the time. How does that feel? How are you doing? See, you were incapable to be a good parent to begin with. Now you are together with your child 24/7 and you suck. You suck. That's what you realize. You suck. But the posts that you put up on Facebook is pointing at your child as a problem. You're the problem. If your child is the problem, you are the problem, because a child is ever changing. A child is changing all the time. Are you changing, Miss or Mr. Adult? No, you're stuck in your own ways. This is the right way to do it. If somebody else does it outside of that right way, it's unacceptable, and then you will dismiss it. You will dismiss it. If somebody offers a different approach to a challenge, you will dismiss it because it doesn't fit in your square and how you cope with life. Now everything has changed. Everything you knew as normal, all those plans, all those targets and goals, all those estimations, all those forecasting. You know what you can do with all that forecasting you've done? You know, with all those targets and goals, you can just grab him and twist them and twist them and twist them. And when you're done twisting them, shove it in your bum hole. Because none of those apply right now. None of those apply. And yeah, social media is but talking about moderation and taking all this moderation, I've been exercising. I've been exercising quite a bit. I also switched from smoking weed to edibles. For the record, I am 100% sober right now. I switched to edibles because everybody talks about people with lung issues, pre-existing issues, are more prone to get ill. Long before coronavirus, that statement still held water. If you're tasking your immune system and your cardiovascular system with excess of amount of smoke, alcohol, and some other drugs, yeah, your immune system are going to be diminished, and it's probably not going to protect you from all this bullshit that's going on. And exercising a lot. Shout out to Hard Ass Work. This gentleman is Richard Anderson. He's a former coach of mine. He has taught me everything I need to know about how to exercise with my own body weight or with random objects that surrounds us if you go out for a run. I'm ever so grateful for Hard Ass Work, his gym, and his support for me. So if you wish, please contact me and I can connect you with Richard if you want to get your shit together and become a strong person, because strong goes long. Weak stays bleak. That rhymed. Anywho. Let's take a look at how some of this week went on, and I do rant on Facebook as well. Well, the week started with Trump stumping the media, because the media is obviously, they're all gung-ho about talking shit about the presidency, the administration, and how they're handling this. And if you are strictly watching, getting your news from news channels, but not listening to the White House briefings or our Governor of California speeches, you would think that our governor and Trump is in this huge battle and this tug of war between them, and it's not working out. Well, Trump came on TV on Monday and replayed a bunch of clips of these news channels who are against Trump, just to document what kind of horse shit they've been pumping into the public view. And some of the clips were the governor of New York and the governor of California doing a, I guess, interview or some sort of a video vlog of thanking the administration with the logistical support that they have received in their state, and thanking, the president and its administration. So it's not what the media tells you. It never has been. Like, when was that? Like, that's why we had one of the love ballads from Public Enemy, Don't Believe the Hype. Because the media is mother of all evil. Because the media is a tool for conditioning. When you want to do a yoga, if you don't have self-discipline, what do? You turn on a YouTube channel, you pick a 30-day challenge, and you try to do from day 1 through day 30 to, earn some flexibility and move your body and stay healthy. Why? Because you're not able to do this on your own, because you lack discipline. I lack discipline. We all lack discipline. So we need something to condition ourselves to become stronger with that muscle. Like this podcast is part of my conditioning. If I just run my mouth for half an hour to an hour, once or twice a week, my brain is going to get stronger and my articulation is going to get stronger because I'm practicing it. And I need to practice it perhaps more than a native speaker. English is my third language. I learned it literally on the street by listening to friends. My whole enthusiasm for foreign languages started with when I was at the end of 5th grade. Dad had rented a summer home in Kuşadası, Turkey, and we were neighbors to a family that was half German, half Turkish. Dad was Turkish, mom was German, and the kids, they were fluent in German, a little bit of Turkish to get by because they mainly lived in Germany. And then the main family's uncle and cousins showed up, and we were all same age, so the kids are playing together, but the cousins, they were more comfortable talking to one another in German because they were more fluent in it, and that was their life back in Germany. So every time I was playing with them and they were talking to one another in German, I would get left out. And it would bum me out because I wanted to know what was going on because I was part of that game. Not that they were being mean to me, it's just that muscle was so much stronger for them, so they used German as, the common language. At the end of that summer, it was time for me to pick a middle school, and I picked a middle school that taught German. So I went to a German middle and high school, German teaching middle school and high school, and I am fluent in German. Now, I have not used that muscle for a long time, so it's a little rusty. You give me a couple of beers and an hour with a German-speaking crowd, it'll come back. I would still have to think about vocabulary and whatnot, but it will come back. So as far as English goes, when I arrived to the States, I was fluent. You couldn't cuss me out in English. I understand everything. But getting into a sophisticated conversation, I did lack vocabulary. Considering that I moved to the States in 2004 and now it's 2020, in 16 years, I've been practicing English, and I'm still practicing the language. But the practice is mandatory. That's why my English is so much stronger. And it baffles me that that some who has, that there are people who've been here a lot longer than I have been, foreigners or immigrants, they're just not into it. They're not into it. And it's a matter of interest. But it's part of their conditioning. They are not trying to get better in the language that we all spoke every day and everywhere. That's their deal. So, yes, media got stumped, and then the best meme of this quarantine came from a former classmate of mine in Turkey. He's a smart dude. He now lives in the States, and he owns a construction company, and this is what he wrote. Isn't it interesting how the worldwide economy stalls when, for only a few weeks, people only buy what they need instead of what they want? I'll let that sink in. Just think about that. What else is going on? Oh, I started the week with a quote from Dave Chappelle. I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle, and the reason I'm a big fan, not that because he's funny, it's because he has a purpose with his funny. He's just pointing at the discrepancies and the double standards in our society, especially between the races, and how skewed the America is and how money works. He's a great advocate of all of this, and he is doing a seminar at Duke Ellington School of Art in Washington, D.C., and he tells the kids, hey, if I could give you an advice, any advice, the best advice I could give you is be nice and don't be scared. As soon as I heard that, I just took that on, and I'm going to just make sure that my kids are growing up with this. As long as they're nice and they're not scared, they will be successful in whatever they like to do. So that, I thought that was pretty neat. Nothing funny in that. So let's go to my Facebook feed. It's crazy. It's crazy. People are posting data on all this stuff, and some of them are in favor of we need to stay in lockdown. It's just worse than what we think. And then some of the breakdowns are just pointing out this is no worse than your average flu, and people who are vulnerable to this are the people who already have pre-existing conditions. So it's like now people are complaining about us sending PPEs to China. We shouldn't have. It's and like they showed people getting microchipped to buy soda in a company, but again, these people, the people who would allow to be chipped, are the same people who believe in like bullshit religions and gatherings. And the motivation comes from wanting to belong to something. Look, I'm doing this for you. And which is for me, it's such a strange behavior coming from a different country. It's a very American thing where I see people go, I will live for the company. That company doesn't give a shit about you. I have said this many, many times. That company does not give a shit about you. Especially a company that chips you. And here's how the chips work. I have a pit bull. I live in California. and the dog is chipped. I left the gate open and she just wandered away, and the Humane Society picked her up. Less than 24 hours later, my dog's mugshot is on the Humane Society website under the name of Coco. My dog's name is Nadine. And described as this 6-year-old chirpy pit bull is pit bull mix, waiting for its new home and its new owner. I'm like, that's my dog. And I tell you what, that dog is the furthest thing from chirpy. That dog is a murderer. I know my dog. I've been looking after that maniac since, for years. But the chip part, she is chipped. And when I went there, she's registered. When I went there, they said, oh, well, the chip didn't respond. Oh, didn't it? Or did you even bother to look before you named my dog Coco and reposted her for adoption? This is how chipping works. What happens when you quit that company? You're going to have to go through another surgery to have that chip removed? What are you, a dog? This is This is not crazy. This is reality. This is reality. And the funny thing is, this kind of reality was, we were pre-warned about these things with movies, with these creative minds. One day humans are going to become this. And I bet you those creative minds got inspired by history. Because in history, there are so many examples of this herd psychology. As a herd, we move. As a herd, we just if the group is going one way, we all become stupid and we move in the same direction as the herd is moving. How can you not move with the herd? Well, it has a lot to do with your parents. It has a lot to do with your critical thinking. It has a lot to do with your education and what you have been taught. If you were taught not to, if you were curbed every time you asked a question, you will eventually stop asking questions. If someone snapped at you because you asked a question, they're going to, you're going to stop. You're not, it's called negative reinforcement. Every time you do something negative happens to you, you're going to stop doing that thing because you don't want to deal with the negative consequences. So that has a lot to do with that. And the herd psychology also is very linked to your community, and it all goes back to we all want to belong to something. That's why religions exist. Like religion is it stems from the need to believe. You need to believe in something, and when science comes in the show, science says, well, you need to know something. You need to know something before you can draw a conclusion. So think about that. Oh, this guy. I'm not gonna mention names because they're like this guy is a comic, and this guy is like one of the biggest critics of comics too. And he'll just like run around, tell people how to do their comedy, and he will tell you this is the way to do it. Outside of that, that's how we started this conversation too. Outside of that, it's unacceptable. Really, just because you're doing what everybody else is doing, the fundamentals, that means you're right? No, man, you're absolutely wrong. And chances are you're coming at people and acting like you're an expert in comedy, where you started maybe a couple of years before I did, doesn't make you better than me. It's actually sad that you and I can appear on the same stage even though you started a couple of years before I did. Know your place. Know your place. at the end, you're an open micer, I'm an open micer. What else you gonna do? What else you gonna do? But no, Engin, you're doing this wrong. And he told me that he's embarrassed when I'm on stage. I said, you have third-party anxiety when I'm on stage? He said, yes. I said, well, that has a lot to do with your insecurities than what I do on stage. And if you only think that you're doing great on stage, you're wrong, sir. You're not. I've been watching you giving up on your own jokes and own act. And all you got to do is run your mouth for 5 minutes and be entertaining. But we have to deal with your diminished value and diminished perspective of yourself. That's what we watch. I tried to talk about a crazy story of mine that happened to me. And you are one of those stories right now to tell me how I'm going to do my comedy. You're not doing it any better than I am. And you're actually, when was the last time you had a great, huge laughter in a room? I have many of those. I have many of those under my belt, and all I'm doing is I'm being me, and I'm telling a story that happened to me that happens to be just funny in its own thing. I'm not making up the story. I'm just forwarding the story, and the story lifts a good laughter from the room. Go ahead. Shitting on people will get you far. Because, you know, good luck with that. Oh, and then the riots. Here we go. This is my favorite part about America. There were riots. People gathered and they didn't want to be locked in anymore. And now in Turkey, when there's a riot, when people like protest something, they show up and they have a couple of signs, handmade signs, and they yell out a chant. It's done. Here in America, people showed up with full-on armed guns and everything, and nothing happens to these people because it is their right to show up with guns. So government has to be very, very careful before they go on to take over some freedom, because people can respond in the United States. In Turkey, you hear one little warning shot, poof, everyone will disappear, or anywhere else in the world, because you don't have anything to respond with. So know the worth of your country. Know the worth of this great country. Speaking of gatherings and protests, I found a picture. Let me get it closer. I found a picture. This is me with my daughter on top of my head. And I want you to pay attention to my scarf there. This is the gathering. This was the first Women's March. And I was one of the few people who had a US flag on. Now, what happened?